at Washington. This is what a group of Russian protesters are shouting, apparently. Now, members of Russian National Liberation Movement members, they chanted and marched throughout the streets calling for Russian nuclear warheads and missiles to be pointed at American cities. They even mentioned RS-24 Yars missiles, which can carry multiple nuclear warheads, RS-28 Sarmat intercontinental ballistic missiles, and Poseidon torpedoes. Their leaders, they're not helping things either. In fact, Russian President Vladimir Putin, he warned that we may have come unacceptably close to the point of no return here, folks, referencing Russia's threat to deploy nuclear weapons. Russian military expert Igor Korotchenko, he recently suggested on state-owned TV that the Kremlin plans to attack U.S. ships with nuclear weapons. Just recently, Russian warships conducted drills in the Atlantic Ocean just south of Florida on their way to Cuba. The Russian Defense Ministry said that a Russian Navy ship and Moscow's Kazan nuclear-powered submarine conducted this exercise to simulate a missile strike on a fleet of enemy ships. Now, if you guys haven't already, please take a second, hit the like button for the video, subscribe to the channel. I see a lot of folks coming in here already. The Awakened, Keenan Ripon, Mildred. What's going on? Jerry Sparks, Kyle Matthews. All right. So, yeah, guys, I hate to say it, but the U.S. is basically facing World War III, but the Biden administration doesn't seem to be interested in doing anything about it. I mean, Russia's already outproducing the United States and NATO, churning out 250,000 artillery munitions every single month. Meanwhile, the US and Europe collectively can produce what, 100,000 munitions each month? And they're not even doing that. One article that I read said that the arsenals of democracy, they're failing us. Many people are saying that Obama's clueless foreign policy has left behind the chaos that we're dealing with today, and that it's the Obama administration that remained determinedly passive in the face of events that have shattered this old strategic landscape and began this descent into the vortex. And so while the United States is busy making enemies and stumbling over its own feet, Russia has been making friends. It was just announced that Russian President Vladimir Putin will visit North Korea to meet with Kim Jong-un in a show of unity against the West. Now, I mean, guys, this is wartime alliances forming right in front of our faces, guys. And if you guys were not before, now is definitely the time to be paying attention. In fact, in today's live, I want to share with you guys some of the national security threats, both outside and inside our country. But first, here's Russian President Vladimir Putin delivering his threat of nuclear conflict. And here's also Fox News senior strategist, analyst, General Jack Keane's reaction. Take a listen.
Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin throwing down the gauntlet over Ukraine, saying the West will face a nuclear conflict if they put troops in to help Ukraine.
Strategic nuclear forces are in a state of full readiness for use. We remember the fate of those who sent their contingents to the territory of our country. Now the consequences for the potential interventionists will be much more tragic.
Here to react, Fox News senior strategic analyst, retired four-star General Jack Keane. General, he loves talking about nuclear war every 6 weeks. To me, this is in response to what Macron said of France, that maybe NATO should put some troops in there to help out the Ukrainians. What do you think the big picture is?
Yeah, well, I think Putin continues to brandish the use of nuclear weapons because it works. I mean, it's the reason why the Biden administration took a knee on not providing advanced weapons when the Ukrainians began to ask for them in the first year of the war. It's because the policymakers feared Russian escalation. That's the reality that we're facing. So that kind of worked. Why wouldn't he keep brandishing it? Of course he's going to do it. And what they would fear about Macron's statement about providing troops, quote unquote, he would fear French air power. The F-16s are coming to Ukraine this year. Hopefully, if Congress approves the funding, the Europeans will be providing them as well. And that.
Well, you heard what Putin said, guys. Much more tragic, and coming from a country that has, as many nuclear warheads as America, This is definitely a scary thing to think about, you know? I mean, and of course, it's kind of hard to blame Putin for not wanting NATO on his border in his backyard. I mean, we wouldn't allow Russian troops to be in Mexico or Canada. So maybe we need to put America first and think about the lives of our people with what we're doing abroad. I mean, what do y'all think? I mean, there are literally Russian people already marching throughout their streets calling for Russian nuclear warheads and missiles to be pointed at American cities. American cities, guys. A video that's been kind of going viral shows members of the Russian National Liberation Movement marching in the rain and loudly demanding that Russian nuclear weapons against U.S. cities. I mean, they're chanting for Yars, Sarmat, and Poseidon weapons to aim at Washington. All powerful Russian missiles and torpedoes that can carry nuclear warheads. Now, at this particular protest, you could see a crowd of people waving a black and orange striped flag, which has become a symbol of Russian nationalism and militarism, especially since it's linked to the historical ribbon of St. George. Now, this ribbon, it used to essentially this ribbon used to kind of honor World War II veterans, but it got a militaristic twist over the years, and it was even banned in Ukraine back in 2017. There was also a car in the middle of the action with a fake orange missile affixed to its roof, echoing similar protests that they've held outside the U.S. embassy. And this all comes at a time when Russia has not shied away from making repeated threats to use nuclear weapons against the U.S. and NATO countries during the more than 2-year-long Russia-Ukraine war, a war following Russia's invasion February 24, 2022. In fact, they've even been running drills with tactical nuclear weapons, guys. Just recently, Russian President Vladimir Putin, he talked about the escalating tensions, hinting that the West might not fully understand the risks, or perhaps is just too freaking caught up in the feeling of being untouchable and exceptional. He said that we have come uncomfortably close to the point of no return, and that the West is either unaware of the scale of the threat that they themselves pose, or are simply obsessed with the belief in their own impunity and their own exceptionalism. Now, according to the Russian president, both can turn into tragedy. Now, this discussion came right after the U.S. and the Ukraine linked a 10-year security deal aimed at beefing up Ukraine's defenses. John Isaacs from the Center of Arms Control and Non-Proliferation thinks that Putin's tough talk is really just about, trying to sway NATO and the U.S. Now, according to him, without any real wins in the Ukraine, Putin's resorting to basically threats, which are likely bluffs, because actually using nuclear weapons would be disastrous for everyone involved. Isaacs pointed out that the sheer destructiveness of nuclear war, if Putin started using nuclear weapons, we would die, he would die. So, a lot of people in Russia, a lot of people in the United States or NATO would die. In other words, it's suicidal for any country. To put it simply, it could potentially end life on a massive scale. He underscored the staggering number of nuclear weapons both the U.S. and Russia have. Russia has about 5,580 nuclear warheads, according to a 2024 report by the Federation of American Scientists, which says that the U.S. has 5,044, highlighting just how high the stakes are. But like I say, guys, like I always say, desperate people are dangerous people, and Putin may just end up getting desperate enough to push that button. Quick shout out and thank you to Freedom for the $5 super chat this morning. Freedom says, it's so clear and obvious Biden has not once showed any alliance to stand for America. Kissing rear to Ukraine. Oh yeah, he's getting all up in that Ukraine booty. But then again, some Americans are saying that they feel more threatened by Biden than they do of Putin. What do y'all think? Who's the bigger threat? Is it Biden or is it Putin? Now, according to Donald Trump supporters, the threat from keeping Joe Biden in the chair is much greater. But what do y'all think? Is Biden remaining in office a greater threat than anything else? By the way, if you haven't already, please take a second, hit the like button for the video. I totally appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for sharing this video. Get this message out here, guys. Get the truth out here. We need to get in front of more truth seekers. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much for sharing the video. And in case you didn't believe in Russia's nuclear threat, let me tell you something. They're making moves near Cuba. Russian military expert Igor Korotchenko, he recently suggested on a state-owned TV that Kremlin plans to attack U.S. ships with nuclear weapons. He specifically mentioned their Russian warships that conducted drills in the Atlantic Ocean on their way to Cuba, specifically a Russian Navy ship and Moscow's Kazan nuclear-powered submarine that conducted the exercise to simulate a missile strike on a fleet of enemy ships. Now, according to Korotchenko's analysis, if a strike is carried out, as it was stated, several hundred kilometers away against an American aircraft carrier strike group, this strike could be done with a special ordnance for maximum effectiveness, speed, and reliability. Translation, special ordnance means nuclear weapons, guys. Pentagon Press Secretary Sabrina Singh said that they've been tracking the Russians' plans for this as they constantly monitor any foreign vessels operating near U.S. territorial waters. So, yeah, all I'm saying here, guys, is hope for the best, prepare for the worst. And it's kind of sad to say, but the Biden administration doesn't seem all that interested in doing anything substantial about this national security threat. I mean, just look back at September 2022. Our national government figured that Russia's allies, North Korea and Iran, whom we've called the arsenals of evil, would not be much help in boosting Putin's faltering efforts in the Ukraine. Well, turns out we got that wrong. Nice job, Biden. So we didn't see it coming, and the U.S. might ultimately end up stepping back just when Putin's special military operations seem to be losing steam. Now, North Korea and Iran, both staunchly anti-American, they're equipping Putin with drones, artillery, and cruise missiles. I mean, they're helping him stand up against the U.S. military, the United States military, and our NATO allies in the Ukraine. Meanwhile, both countries push forward with their nuclear agendas. So, to just kind of put it into perspective, how much the U.S. has slipped, General Michael E. Corella from the U.S. Central Congress told Congress that Russians are firing 5 times as many artillery shells as the Ukrainians. He even warned that this gap could widen even further. While Russia's pumping out 250,000 artillery munitions a month, the U.S. and Europe, they can barely manage about 100,000 munitions a month. Our arsenals of democracy, they're failing. And Franklin Roosevelt would likely be turning in his grave at Hyde Park, especially since it's Joe Biden, a fellow Democrat, in the White House right now. Ukraine, they've been at war for what, 700 plus days? And here we are without a clear victory plan or the production capacity to handle the growing military demands in places like the Ukraine, like Israel, and against Iranian-backed attacks in Syria, Iraq, Jordan, and the Red Sea. Taiwan, they're more exposed than ever. Beijing is definitely watching, and they're ready to pounce on this opportunity. Biden lost his chance to really put Putin in his place while he didn't really push to help Kiev reclaim Crimea. Biden, along with Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, they really dropped the ball here. A lot of war experts are saying that their premature pullout from Afghanistan has left the nation badly exposed to Russia and to China. Former President Barack Obama once warned folks never to underestimate Biden's ability to F things up. FJB is what a lot of folks are saying now. And right now, Biden is living up to that warning, jeopardizing our national security at the worst possible time. Right now, there's about 2 savage wars raging in volatile regions, and there's a real chance they could even get bigger, possibly dragging more countries into the fray and raising the risk of the potential use of nuclear weapons. China's seriously stepping up its nuclear arms production, and their media is certainly starting to talk about the possibility of a war on a global scale. Over in North Korea, Kim Jong-un's unpredictable regime, he's already got nuclear capabilities, and Iran is on the brink of joining that club, having already promised to annihilate Israel. Meanwhile, Venezuela is stirring up quite a bit of trouble down there, threatening to invade Guinea, which really could shake up the energy markets. Now, under the Taliban, Afghanistan might again become a hub for terrorist attacks. And that's not the only hotspot, though. You've got Yemen, you got Syria, you got Libya, Pakistan, and vast areas of the Sahel. They're all potential breeding grounds for violence. At the same time, huge numbers of people are fleeing from poverty and conflict in their home countries. And as a result, they're overwhelming democratic nations and shaking up their political scenes. Why do you think we're seeing so many illegal immigrants entering the United States now? This is part of it. Jerry Sparks, thanks so much for the super chat this afternoon. Now, a lot of this turmoil, it could easily be traced back to what some consider a lack of the U.S. leadership. Is it Biden's fault? Is it Obama's fault? Particularly noticeable during the Obama-Biden era, as the U.S. has stepped back from global crises. Ambitious powers like Russia, Iran, and China, they've been quick to step in and spreading violence and chaos. Throughout this time, the Obama administration often seemed to take a hands-off approach, even as the events that drastically changed the global strategic scene unfolded, pushing us into the current state of disorder that we're in right now. And as one article described it, the Obama administration remained determinatively passive in the face of events that ultimately shattered the old strategic landscape and began the descent into the vortex. And while the U.S. and our allies are further descending into chaos and disorder, the likes of Putin and Kim Jong-un, they're joining forces. Russian President Vladimir Putin visited North Korea this week in order to meet with Kim Jong-un on a show of unity against the West. Part of it is signing a partnership agreement that would include security issues, which could easily include an alliance against the United States if an all-out war were to break out. This sounds like World War III to me, guys. And U.S. and South Korean officials fear that in exchange for munitions, Russia may be providing North Korea with military technology capable of advancing Kim Jong-un's nuclear weapons programs. Definitely some scary stuff, guys. Now, as we talked about, the situation is incredibly serious, and it's very clear that the stakes are higher than ever. So now, more than ever, it is highly crucial to stay informed, stay prepared for both you and your loved ones. Drop me some comments down below, guys. Let me know what you guys think about this ever developing, evolving situation. And by the way, if you found this particular live discussion enlightening, definitely do not miss my other video where we talk about Democrats and why they're moving away from Joe Biden. I'll do my best to leave a link for you guys in the description down below this video, maybe an end screen or something like that, but definitely check that out. Dennis Clark, thanks so much for the $5 super chat. What's good, man? Dennis Clark says, what's up, Ron? It's getting too bad. If the nuke goes off, keep your faith. Jesus is close. What do y'all think? Y'all on board with Dennis? What's going on, Katalia? Good to see you in the comments. Jerry Sparks says it's a perfect storm. Let's see. Dark Messiah says, if NK gets hypersonic tech, XK is gone. Oh, man. It's wild out here. Teresa Be Kind, these are tough times to be a parent, aren't they? Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Robin Patton from Richmond, Indiana. What's going on? Where y'all watching from? I'm pretty sure we got probably all 50 states here in the comments. Some folks outside the United States as well. Cassandra Symington says, stand with Israel, stand with Trump. We got Keenan Ripon in the comments. All right, guys. Again, if you haven't already, I totally appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you for hitting the like button. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing the video, and I'm going to catch you guys on the next one. Take care.